Hey, it's the Vortex. I wanted to do just another. I like doing these stream of consciousness videos sometimes where I just go in blind and don't even know what I'm going to say and see what I end up saying away, I guess, basically. So I had the rough idea of doing a video. I mean, there's this. If you've been watching my channel, one of the elite few, then you'll know that a few years ago I was very into this whole idea of the artist engineer, which is a very rough, not really that rough, I mean sort of relatively developed idea around defining a archetype that combined engineering disciplines with like fine art, I guess. So I guess I'll talk a bit about that because maybe it's interesting. Maybe related to some Myers-Briggs thing as well. Because it's a fun intellectual exercise, I guess, or mental exercise, not so much intellectual. Maybe that's debatable. So yeah. Where can I start? So well, I mean, I'll probably start with. I mean, I'll make this an INTP video actually, like sort of self-analysis. That's always quite interesting, I guess. So my type is INTP. I've talked a lot about this in the previous videos as well. I'm sort of retreading old ground, but I think a lot of the time with videos in general, you just have to retread stuff and re-examine it maybe. Especially when you're stuck for ideas like I am now a bit, really. The Noir Vortex channel, this will be also a general update. So I'm back in the UK now, so I came back from Russia. I was there for almost 2 years in Moscow. I'm back in London now, and to be honest, sort of glad to be back. I mean, Moscow was alright, but it was just very alien, sort of very alien experience, like very. I found it very hard to adapt to being in Russia. Incredibly difficult, actually. Primarily down to the language barrier, really, but the cultural differences aren't massive. There are cultural differences, but they're not huge, not like that bad. But I found it very hard to adapt to being in Russia. I mean, I did meet a few people there and friends and stuff. But anyway, getting off track a bit now. So that's like a general update on the channel. Like I've come back from Mother Russia, Mama Ruski, Ja Angliski, Pajalosta. That doesn't make sense. I'm English, please. Ja Angliski, Spasiba, Bolshoi. Gdoroski, where Russia? This is terrible. Russian. I bet any Russian person watching this is like shit. Or Gavno. Это Angliski machina. Jurak. This Englishman is stupid, is a fool. Это Angliski machina, Durak. I guess I can show off a bit of that now. Anyway, I'm getting way off track. So I'm back here. Working in again, like I won't go too much into the details obviously, but working in augmented reality actually, which is very interesting. So that's been real good progress and things. I was going to talk about the artist engineer anyway, wasn't I? So I feel like, in a way, like I've sort of, so the idea of the artist engineer was this, related to INTP somehow as well, was this idea of, I mean, it's sort of like a modern Renaissance person, really, like an individual, something a bit Nietzschean about it, maybe in some senses, who combines what's often seen as very separate realms of thought. So there's sort of social utility to the idea. Maybe even like in a similar way to in the early Russian Revolution, you had like this sort of idea that art had to serve a social purpose. And I'm not saying this is like a Marxist idea I came up with it. It isn't really. I've sort of got I wouldn't say a love-hate relationship, but I have very much yeah, maybe love-hate relationship with like sort of Marxist philosophy, Marxist thinking. I find I can't. I mean, with that, I can't get over the fact that a lot of it just seems. I know it's in theory, it's based on a pragmatic materialist understanding of the world, but I don't know. I'm going off track again now. But yeah, yeah, it's difficult. I'm not really comfortable in the on camera sometimes. But so was it? Yeah, so the artist engineer was this whole idea like I'm not going to. I need to practice talking about this actually because I'm doing a talk probably and maybe even this month about the artist engineer idea and my general artistic practice. So this might be quite good practice for that actually. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a talk about this, so I figured this would be just a good way to talk about it and just try and bounce some ideas around my head. So the artist engineer, what is it? Get to point. It's basically an individual who combines artistic and engineering principles. So that could be design, could be art for art's sake, representing the world, abstraction and figuration. So it's very broad. It's a very broad definition, which is probably a strength in some ways, but also a weakness, I suppose, if I were going to say it without, that sort of like very glib, where it's sort of a person who is fine and wants to work in both of those realms and is comfortable and excited by doing so because the novelty that comes as a result of their cross-pollination. And I think the world that we're going into now is very much going to be, like in terms of technology, is going to be much more of a, and especially because with the augmented reality work I'm doing, it's very much about, that's very much a cross-disciplinary thing. You've got 3D modelling involved in it, you've got design, of course, coding, technologies that code drives the entire thing, and sound. It's a really interesting cross-pollination of different media, really, but in an entirely new way. VR as well, of course. Obviously the problem with, the thing with all these technologies is they've always been overpromised as to how useful they'll be, but I think probably with AR certainly that its time is coming. The time that the technology is sort of catching up with the vision, maybe. With VR as well, though it's a bit slower and it's still sort of a niche thing in a way, VR, but AR, I don't say everyone's got a phone or is attached to these. Facebook and Instagram's down at the minute, actually, it's quite funny. Not funny, haha, just like odd. That's a coincidence, but yeah. So this I came with this manifesto sort of thing. It was sort of an attempt to verbalise. In a way, my own artistic practice, really, because I'm into dev development, and I'm trying to extend it beyond that. I don't want to just make it sort of self-absorbed thing where I'm just talking about, hey man, these are things I find really cool or whatever. Like, it was more by trying to put it into words that seemed cohesive, I suppose. I'll link to the thing below anyway, but yeah, I've got it sort of swirling around my head at the minute because I've got to deliver a talk on it probably within the month, maybe early next month, which should be really interesting. I'll probably do another video about it when it's actually imminent. In that talk, I will be talking about, so initially about the artist engineer idea, going into a bit more detail. It's quite informed by cybernetics and that sort of system of thought, and also going in depth, quite fairly in depth, into my own artistic practice and how I've tried to implement the principles of artistic engineering and engineering artistically into my own practice. I am starting to draw a bit more again, not much. I need to do more. I need to start painting again as well. I've been left up to it. I've sort of just been adapting to being back in London, which is nice, and adapting back to London life, which has also been great actually. Just really good to see old friends and catch up with people and yeah, just readapt to it. But yeah, so Um, so I guess going back to, I don't really talk much about the. So I think obviously the sort of, would I say it's a philosophy that everybody can? I mean, everyone is welcome to it. I'm not sure if everybody has the inclination to go down that route. This is one thing I think that's a bit of a problem with it. So, like, I know a lot of painters, and a lot of them are just not interested in technology in that way. They're not. They're just. It's just not their thing. They're not. They're not. They're really like sort of, I guess, right-brained and creatively minded. Whereas the whole artist engineering archetype is sort of a melding of the, whatever you call it, Apollonian and Dionysian sort of mindset, I guess, like the sort of rational, mechanistic mind and the Dionysian sort of chaotic, emotional mind in a way. Not that art doesn't have to be about emotions. You can have geometric abstraction, which isn't really about emotions that much, or whatever. Like, but art can be rational. It can be a response. It could be, in a way, it could be a rational response. I mean, maybe even Picasso's Guernica was a rational response to a horrible event. That's one random example. But yeah, I'm really interested, as I think in just a human being in general, in how those two contradictory areas of the human imagination and consciousness meld together. I think it's a fascinating area of looking into, researching, and I think it's, in a lot of ways, it's the contradiction that drives us, maybe, that keeps things interesting. Maybe it has to be a dynamism to it because it's a constant conflict. Maybe history is just I mean, there's a whole thing in, and I was going about Marxist philosophy or Hegelian dialectics, the thesis and antithesis. And I'm no expert in Hegel, but I sort of understand the basic principle of that. Basically, for every opposite there's an equal. Oh, I completely misinterpreted that. Not that. It's more like. I know I'm coming off like stoned ramblings here, but I'm trying my best. I'm not very good in front of the camera. It's more like for every idea there's a counter idea, and there's synthesis, which is sort of where those two ideas get synthesized. So I guess in a way like that is what I've been doing with this artistic engineer idea, trying to synthesize two seemingly different fields. Which is interesting. It's an interesting philosophical sort of exercise. And in this talk, I'll probably be trying to talk more about how I've actually put that into practice. I'm actually wearing one of my designs here, so I do digital art as well. I've just got some t-shirts done. And I guess in a lot of ways, it's even these two areas like technology and traditional creativity are even more joined at the hip now, because look, I've got an app on my phone called Painter. It's bloody awesome, and it's like, it's a bit like painting. It's not as good as painting. It's not as physical. It's not as, but there is a certain routine to it, which is just really similar. It's like a simulation of a painting experience, which is interesting. I mean, I guess maybe I should look into simulacra and simulation and all that, because I've not really ever read Boulder. I can never pronounce these French books' names. You know who I mean, anyway. But maybe I should look into that. Like I like Debord and the Situationists. I've got a copy of Society of the Spectacle, which is a really interesting read, actually. This is a really mixed video. I'm just going to ramble on for ages. I don't care. Other random bits of news. I released a book, Suicide by Computation, which is a collection of short stories. I already talked about that previously, so I won't go over it too much. But it's been doing alright, actually, which is quite nice to see. I do want to start writing again, so I have written a little bit, like some plans for things, but not really much plans for stories. Yeah, anyway, I'll probably leave it at that. It's like 50 minutes long already. I mean, who's going to watch all that? But I thought I'd do a little bit of an update, a little bit of a ramble, a little bit of a stream of consciousness, a little bit of a. Until I think of something else, maybe in a second, I guess. But I can't think of nothing's coming to mind right now. Yeah, I mean, that'll probably do. It's like 50 minutes long, so a ramble about particularly not really anything particular in a bit. Like,